guys, welcome back to another episode of Guitar Talk with Todd here at Todd Beebe Music. Thank you so much for checking in today and joining us. Please hit that subscribe button in the lower right hand corner. You know I appreciate it, and thank you all so much who do subscribe and join me weekly. I love you guys and appreciate you being here with me. Today we have another guitar review. This is another beautiful Black Beauty 1957 reissue here from the Gibson Custom Shop. This is a very special model. This is one of mine, and this is a 1993 model, and what's special about this is it's one of the very first custom shop models ever made. Official custom shop. Let's kind of talk about that for a little bit. There's always been debate about when the Gibson Custom Shop got going. If you look through the history of Gibson, you'll see stuff in the early 80s and stuff with a logo that says like Custom Shop on it. I'll throw one up here that I know I can find so you can see what I'm talking about. But then you hear the Gibson Custom Shop opened in 1993, and it's like, wait a minute, what? Why is there stuff floating around from the 80s that has that logo on it? So ballpark early 80s, about 81, 82-ish, till about 92-ish or somewhere in there, about a 10-year run there, 82 to 92, give or take, you know, though some dates there, nothing's accurate, but that's when you will see that logo that Gibson would start to do one-off runs and stuff like that, and they would just call it from the custom shop. And then officially in about 1993, the official Gibson Custom Shop, which was a whole separate thing from the Gibson as what's known as the Nashville plant, even though they were both in Nashville, but Gibson USA plant, I should say, was a separate thing from the custom shop. That officially started in 1993, and on the serial numbers and everything, and we've looked into this one quite a bit, and I've talked to people at Gibson and several others. This is one of the first 1957 reissues ever made by the official custom shop there in 1993. So, those of you who watch this show regularly know I love 90s Gibson and 90s custom shop Gibson. Forget it. That's like some of the greatest guitars that will ever be made, in my opinion, and I'm holding one of them right here. Again, they were just kicking off the custom shop as an official thing in 1993. Supposedly, it was the highest craftsman they had. All those guys were pulled from the USA plant and put into the custom shop, and you just had the top dog workers, top dog materials, craftsmanship, everything going on, and they were trying to really make a name for themselves for putting these out there, these reissues, and I mean, it's just impeccable. This is just absolutely beautiful. So what they were doing is they were trying to replicate a real 1957, from that year, Black Beauty Les Paul Custom, and that's still going on today. This is being recorded in 2023. Now you've got all kinds of things going on, Murphy lab aged and all kinds of things going on that you didn't really have going on in 1993. This was pretty much what you were going to buy if you wanted a replica of a 57 Les Paul Custom, as close as you can get. So looking at a couple of things here, we've got, you know, your typical what you would have on a 57. You've got the Gibson mother of pearl logo up here in the headstock with the diamond, also in mother of pearl. Gold Grover tuners going on this one. Les Paul Custom truss rod cover, and then, you know, what you would normally have on a real 57 block mother of pearl inlays, ebony fingerboard going on here, binding on the front and the back, and of course the binding on the sides of the neck. You can even see little things here like they started doing the aged tips on these that were supposed to look, you know, like they had aged, which nowadays with the VOS stuff and all that, the binding is aged as well. This one is naturally aged because it's a 1993, but they didn't really age the binding at that time like they were doing the switch tips. That started later on. So again, this is an early example, one of the earliest from the Gibson Custom Shop. All right, so I also want to mention that we are using Straptight today. We're always secured by Straptight. I'm trying to get it in the light here. If you can see, I got one of the larger ones going on here today. When I bought this guitar years ago, it already had the Schaller hardware on here that had been swapped out. I went ahead and left that on, so if I want to use Schaller, I still can, which I did for years. But as you can see right here, that just works out very well. That Straptight strap lock goes right over that, locks it on. I've got one on the other end too, and we've got no problems with falling off. So thank you, Straptight. Love you guys as always. This is in phenomenal condition. I'm going to put the link below. I also did a 1996 57 reissue. Both of these guitars were down at Sam Phillips Recording Studio in Memphis and spent a lot of time there with our friend, the great Roland Janes. I talk about that in my other YouTube episode, the 96 57 reissue. I'll put a link to that below. Roland was a great friend of ours. We recorded with him many times. If you don't know who Roland Janes was, again, real quick, he was the house guitar player at Sun Studio in the 50s, and all the classic Jerry Lee Lewis recordings you've heard, like Great Balls of Fire, whole lot of shaking going on. That's Roland playing guitar on those. And then in later years in his life, he engineered and pretty much ran Sam Phillips Recording Studio there down in Memphis, and did that right up until he passed away. And we were great friends with Roland, shared a lot of great stories, great times with him, and recorded with him. And he played this guitar. He played the other 57 reissue that I put in the other video too, and he signed the back of the headstock on this one as well. So it's been Rolandized, as I always said, and he got a kick out of that. But he was known for playing a Les Paul Custom as well. His had a Bigsby on it. It was a little bit different, but he always said both of these that I brought down there in the studio with him reminded him of his custom. So glad that these have been Rolandized for sure. So as far as tone goes, you've got the 57 Classics going on in here. At that particular time, 1993, you know, Gibson was really pushing that stuff and getting it back out there, getting their name back on track. I've talked about this before. Henry Juskowitz, yes, he went off the rails at the end there with the robot tuners everybody was hating on and whatnot. But he is also responsible for 90s Gibson, which, you know, you've heard me say a million times. In my opinion, that was the second best era that company's ever seen, besides the classic years of, I'm going to say like 52 till about 62, 63, 64, right up till about the time Ted McCarty stepped down. And then I don't think they had an era quite like that again until the 90s, and Henry was at the wheel during that time. So I always give him credit where it's due. It's trendy to just bash on Henry and what a wacko he was and what he did, but he did some great things, and you know, you got to give him credit for that too. 90s Gibson is fantastic. So these 57 Classics sound amazing, especially if you're doing any like finger style stuff. So, of course, great for doing chord work. You get that real chunky bass response going on here with these 57 classics. Yeah, so just great bassy response, of course, like we always like to do. If you crank it up here, go on to that bridge pickup, you get more crunch, of course, like you always would expect. So yeah, just great guitar. One that I've used for many years. And again, Gibson was doing impeccable work here. The custom shop, it just officially started out, and as an official thing there in '93. Still going strong today. I've also talked about this before. Les Paul Customs at that time, 1993, were still being made in the USA plant. That ran for about another 10 years. And again, we've talked about this before. Check out my other episode of the 96 model. And I think what was going on is it's called a Les Paul Custom, which, when it came out, Les Paul and Ted McCarty wanted to get that going. In about 1953, the Les Paul debuted in 52, but about 53, they started talking about getting an elegant looking guitar, and it was like this. Les Paul wanted it in black with the binding, the gold hardware. He said it reminded him of a tuxedo. It was very elegant looking, and also you could see the player's hands moving on the black. So Les was very insistent on getting a black model of the Les Paul coming out, and this is what they had in mind. But the Customs, as that was called at that time, it was the top dog that you could get. And that ran all the way up till 2003. Like I said, even when they started the official custom shop, which this is in 1993, the regular Les Paul Customs that weren't like 57 reissues and stuff like this one is, those were all just coming out of the USA plant there in Nashville, or obviously in Kalamazoo up until the Gibson company moved to Nashville. But I think around 2003 they finally said, look, because people were saying that's a Les Paul Custom, it was made in the custom shop. No, well, why is it called a Les Paul Custom then? Well, it's kind of getting into this hard thing to explain to people, and everyone just assumed I'm buying a Les Paul Custom. It must be made at the custom shop. But they weren't up until 2003, and then they started making them there. And that's kind of the thing, the Les Paul Custom Shop, like I said, up until from 82 till about 93 or 92, when they finally decided they were going to open an official shop in 93, it was always just special runs, one-off things, and they did some great stuff. And even when they officially opened in 93, it was stuff like this, the 57 reissues, and anything with sparkles on it and all that kind of one-offs and custom-made things that they were doing. That's mainly what the custom shop did. These days in 2023, they still do that, but the custom shop has gotten so huge compared to what they were in 93. It was a smaller thing. Like I said, it was a smaller group of guys. It was just the top dog craftsmen that had worked there for years and had the most seniority, and they were just putting out really limited special edition things. And then I think, from what I can tell, by like 2003, when they started saying, hey, we're going to make all the Les Paul custom models here, it started to turn into a giant thing. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying they do bad work. I'll go on record again, as I always have, of saying I have never played anything from the Gibson Custom Shop that I didn't think was phenomenal. They've always done great work down there. I always will have a special love for that era there with Rick Gembar and the team. They did awesome work, but they still are right to this day. I'm not knocking them. It's the Gibson Custom Shop is A+, and they always have been. But I'm just saying they've turned into a big machine at this point in the game, doing all kinds of things. Whereas going back to 1993, which is what this model is, was a little bit more of a smaller type of a thing, and they more special attention to detail and all that. And boy, you can feel it on like a guitar like this, because it just rings out, has a very worn in feel, and it always has. I bought this guitar off someone else years ago, but when I bought it, already had that worn in feel, and they said when they bought it brand new, it had that worn in feel. So it's just they were doing fantastic work at that time. I've said that 100 times now, so I'm sure you're sick of me saying it. Anyway, let's get some shots of this in the case and get some close-ups like we always do and check her out. Here we go. Okay, so here is the case for the 1993 Gibson Les Paul 57 reissue. We've seen that logo on there many times on these cases. If you've got something from the early 90s and right up until about 2000, I'm going to say 2005, somewhere around there, 2006-ish, this was the logo, custom art, historic, that they put on all the custom shop cases. And now it has the Gibson Custom on there, which we've had those on here as well. It's really interesting, though, on the 1996 model that I have, that is the original case. So again, check out that video. And it's just got the classic brown case that they were using on 90s Gibson. So you would see a lot of those come out in those. But this is a 1993, and it has this logo on here. So it's kind of a weird time there. They were putting some of them in just the brown cases. Most of them would get a custom shop case, though. But again, everything was just kind of getting rolling off the ground there. So you will see a lot of custom shop stuff from the early 90s and mid-90s that just came in a classic, brown case, or you might see these as well. It's kind of interesting. All right, so there she is in the case. Getting down into some close-ups here. These 57 classics have, some wear on them and, tarnish and stuff. That was there when I bought it, and I know the owner who I got it from, the original owner, was also babied his guitars like I do, so I don't really think that was an attempt from Gibson. They weren't really doing the aging thing yet. The VOS stuff hadn't come around, and I think it's just natural wear that neither one of us really realized. I've played this quite a bit. I know the original owner did as well. But we have the traditional ABR1 that you would have on a real 57 with the stop bar. You got the 2-volume, 2-tone controls there with the metal pointers, the bleeders going on there, as some of us call them, just like you would on, most 57s that came out. So this was really a full-on attempt of Gibson, and a great one to really replicate, a 57. Like I said, getting right down in here, you've got that colored, aged, amber switch tip there that a lot of the real 57s that would happen. They came out cream colored, and after 50 years or whatever, they would turn into this and get that aging going on. Usually the binding would age with it. And like we talked about, this kind of naturally is now because it is a 93 and it's getting some age on it just naturally. But when it came out of the factory in 93, out of the custom shop, it was just your traditional cream. So they hadn't quite gotten on board yet with, you know, matching all of the hardware up and aging it. And then ultimately that kind of led into the VOS stuff and all that you have going on today. And Murphy Lab and all that, of course, takes all that to the next level. But in 1993, this is what was going on. This is about as hardcore as it was getting with the aging process and whatnot. All right, looking at the fingerboard, beautiful ebony there with those block inlays going on, mother of pearl. And, you know, like I said, you just can't beat a Les Paul Custom. They're just a staple in the Les Paul line and have been for many, many years, since the 50s. And they're just a beautiful instrument. All right, there's your headstock. And let's kind of flip her over here and get a look at the back like we always do. Okay, so here is the back we got going on. Mahogany, everything you would expect. You got your chamber there, cavity control for the three-way toggle, cavity control for the volume and tone, binding on the front and the back with the 3-ply going on there like we would expect. Like I said, Schaller Straplocks, which had been put on when I got this. But once again, shout out to Straptight, which I just throw on and don't even bother with those. But if I did want to use Schaller, I could. It's set up for that. But again, as I was showing you earlier, you could throw any strap on this. So if you've got a guitar that does have strap locks on there, like this Schaller style, sometimes people do weird stuff and they glue them in and whatnot. I mean, you could drill those out to get them out of there. But if you don't want to go through all that, like I don't, I mean, it works just fine to go ahead and use Straptight. And that's why I use them on all my guitars. What a company. We love you guys. Beautiful shot of the neck there. Pristine condition this whole instrument is. I've babied this thing as I do all my guitars, and it's in great shape for a 93. Coming up to the headstock here, I want to talk about a couple things. There is the historic collection logo that Gibson would put on all of these at that time. Now, if you look at the 1996 model that I'm going to put the link down below and I keep referring to, that's a 1957 reissue 2 put out by the Custom Shop, but it does not have this logo on there. So if you see one of these, you know it's one of the early models that came out of the Custom Shop. And again, we ran the serial numbers on this, and it's one of the first historic models that Gibson put out from the Custom Shop. So it's a really cool piece to have. But by 1996, just 3 years later, like I said, when that other one came out, that logo was gone. They didn't put any logos on the back. What I've always heard is that guys that were buying them were like, look, we want it to look like a real 57, so get all the extra logos and everything off of there and just make it what it is so it looks that way. But I never really got that, because at the end of the day, you don't have a 1957. I mean, it can look like it can almost fool everyone around you, but at the end of the day, it's not a 1957 model, just like this is, and it's a 1993. So that never bothered me, and I think it's kind of cool to have that on there. And like I said, if you do have one, it usually, or it definitely rather, tells you that you've got one of the earlier official Custom Shop models before they took that off, which I believe started in 1995. Like I said, on the 96 that we have a video of, that was already gone as well, but I believe they took that off after just a couple year run there. All right, you got the classic gold Grover tuners going on, and then there's my man Roland with his signature on there. The other one he signed going the other direction, and I handed him this one and he signed it that way in between the tuners. That's kind of cool. Such a great guy. I sure do miss him. All right, let's flip this over. Let's get a look at the output jack here real quick. All right, so just what you would expect there. Getting some aging going on naturally. That's kind of starting to tarnish. That's supposed to happen. Again, they did not age this model in 93 when it came out, so that's just naturally happening there. It's got its fair share of, that nick was on there when I got it. I know the original owner said they turned around and slammed it into something. No big deal. Again, that's an early example of Murphy lab aging, but not by Murphy. Just naturally done. Okay, let's get one more full-on shot here in the case. All right, so there she is one more time in the custom shop case. Beautiful example right here. Gibson Custom Shop, one of the earliest examples of their historic collection. The 1957 reissue Les Paul Custom Black Beauty right there, put out by the Custom Shop in 1993. All right, so there she is in the case. Let's take her for a test drive like we always do. I'm going to do some rockabilly type of a backing thing in honor of Roland, our friend there, and send that out to him. I'm also going to turn her loose and just really let her rip. Do like a whipping post type of a thing. Allman Brothers backing going on, and just let her go here, and some slide stuff as well, like I always love to do. So here we go. Here is how she sounds. Check her out. Guys, so there she is, the 1957 reissue Black Beauty there, 1993 edition from the Gibson Custom Shop, who I salute. They always do fantastic work. Like I said, pick one up if you can. They're still putting these out today. Just what you can never go wrong with a Les Paul Custom. Just a beautiful looking guitar. Ebony has that faster feel to it, in my opinion, than rosewood does. So a lot of people love ebony for that reason. Has a brighter tone to it too than rosewood does, and that's what's kind of cool about it. It's kind of a whole different beast than, say, the Les Paul Standard or something like that, which traditionally is known for having rosewood on the fingerboard. And it's more of a dig in kind of a, again, this is all my opinion, but it's just more of a dig in type of a thing that you can, get into and whatnot a little bit more, whereas ebony's like a faster wood. But so definitely grab one if you can. Always salute the Gibson Custom Shop. They do great work there. Thank you so much, you guys. Please comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have a custom, want a custom, got rid of a custom, although we don't like hearing those stories around here. But let me know, comment if any experience you've had with a Les Paul Custom. They're just beautiful, beautiful instruments you can never go wrong with. Please, please, please hit that subscribe button in the lower right hand corner. You know I appreciate it. Find me on Facebook at Todd Beebe Music. And like I said, we post weekly content, so please let everyone and anyone know, and hit that subscribe button and turn those notifications on so you know when we're posting, which is weekly, sometimes more than weekly, artist interviews, guitar reviews, product reviews, lessons. We got all kinds of things going on here, and we appreciate you guys being with us. So we will see you guys again. Stay safe and love your dogs. Take care.